With the Edge of Fate right around the corner, I wanted to take some time to put together an easy to follow guide on how to prepare for the next expansion. Unlike previous years, Destiny 2 is seeing some major system overhauls, especially for weapons and armor, which may leave most players confused on what to do to prepare. But today's prep guide should have you ready to come into the new expansion prepared. If you'd like to skip to a certain part of the prep guide, or want to come back later, you can find timestamps in the description below. But with that being said, I'm SniperKH, and let's get into the guide. We're going to start with the longest part of prepping, which is bounty prepping. Now yes, we are seeing the leveling system getting crunched going into the Edge of Fate, but based on the information we have regarding how leveling will work in the new expansion, alongside a DMG tweet referencing bounty prepping, this still seems to be an important task to take care of. As is the case every year, you'll want to prioritize weekly bounties from every vendor that gives them, as they give you the largest amount of XP per bounty, coming in at 12,000 XP. You can obtain weekly bounties from Hawthorne in the Tower, Shah Han in the Cosmodrome, Varix on Europa, Petra on the Dreaming City, and Eris Morn and the Lectern of Enchantment on the Moon. While you don't need to do all of the weekly bounties, getting as many done as you can will do you wonders for the expansion, as it'll grant you a major XP boost heading into the Edge of Fate. In the past, I've been able to complete all the weekly bounties from Shah Han, Varix, Petra Venge, Eris, and the Lectern of Enchantment on all three characters, and doing so usually grants me somewhere in the ballpark of 2 million XP for the first day of the new expansion, which is more than enough to help you get access to the new artifact mods. It's important to note that you'll want to purge each of your three characters of all the quests you currently have in order to carry more bounties. So either delete quests you're not completing, or go complete them, then start grabbing bounties. I'd highly recommend you start on Petra's weeklies first, as she offers 6 unique versions of the Ascendant Challenge bounty, and with how close we are to the new expansion, missing even one of these bounties on your characters will cause you to lose out on tens of thousands of XP, so it's important that you get started on this right away. If you bounty prep correctly, you should have around 180 to 185 bounties stored across all 3 of your characters, with those bounties consisting only of weekly and daily bounties. I know this part of bounty prepping is very boring, but it's important to do if you want to take on the new raid day 1. Next up, we have exotic Engram hoarding. This is yet another step of this process that can be rather tedious, but it is also relatively important. The reason why you want to hoard exotic engrams is that so you can turn them into the Cryptarch come day 1 and get immediate access to the new exotic armor pieces. Thanks to the major Edge of Update content drop we got from various content creators earlier this week, we know that the Edge of Fate is bringing along 5 new exotics, with those being 2 exotic weapons and 3 exotic armor pieces. And I'd imagine those 3 exotic armor pieces will most likely be easier to obtain via resetting Cryptarch's rank once. You'll want to make sure that all 3 characters have alt-in engram slots filled with exotic engrams, and then have some exotic engrams and prime engrams sitting in your postmaster. Some easy ways of getting exotic engrams would be from the season pass or from lost sectors. I know Grandmaster Nightfalls can drop exotic engrams as well, but I find that most of those engrams usually decrypt into armor when pulling them from the postmaster, which doesn't give XP towards the Cryptarch's rank, but I'd recommend just farming lost sectors, especially since that'll be helpful for the next part of this process. Speaking of the next part of the process, we have hoarding materials. Going into the Edge of Fate, we're going to be seeing massive reworks to the armor and weapons system, and based on videos from creators who have been able to play the Edge of Fate early, it's clear that having a large stash of materials going into this expansion is going to be important. The main material that seemed important that you can already start grinding for from all the videos I've seen regarding the Edge of Fate will be enhancement cores. I imagine most of you watching this video are drowning in these cores, so grinding for more might be unnecessary, but for those of you who are not drowning in them, I'd recommend grinding lost sectors as completions will grant you some enhancement cores. Additionally, getting shiny weapon drops in the Rite of the Nine will grant you 7 enhancement cores if the roll sucks, and if you don't need the catch-up mechanic, you can dismantle the weapons the emissary provides you at the Rite of the Nine social space for 21 free enhancement cores for each of your characters. There's a possibility that other materials like enhancement prisms, ascendant shards, and ascendant alloys could be useful in the new expansion, but we don't know enough about the new system to come to any concrete conclusion, so I wouldn't waste any time grinding for these materials unless you've already completed all the prep mentioned thus far. Okay, so you've prepared an army of bounties, gathered a large number of exotic engrams, and have a sea of enhancement cores ready. So, what's next? Well, let's briefly talk about our current weapons and armor. In the previous section, I mentioned that we are going to see massive overhauls to the current weapon and armor system, which might make you wonder if keeping your vault full of questionable weapons and armor is worth doing so. The answer is kinda. From the information we've been given by both creators that played the Edge of Fate early and Bungie, our current gear isn't going to be awful in the new expansion, but it will be outclassed by the new gear we're getting thanks to the new tiering system and other incentives that things like the artifact will provide. That being said, our current weapons will still be solid in the new expansion and can still be infused and used in in-game content thanks to the unstable course currency we'll be getting with the Edge of Fate. So to round this back to whether you should keep your current gear, here's the rundown for that. For weapons, keep the weapons you like using and delete the ones you don't like using. This will ultimately free up more space in your vault for new weapons in the expansion. For armor, you can consider keeping your current legendary armor, as the mobility, resilience, and recovery stats will be converted to the weapon's health and class stats respectively. This means that your current armor will see its stats converted, giving you a slight head start heading into the expansion. But getting new armor will end up outclassing current armor, as they're said to be spikier and will also have set bonuses. For exotic weapons and armor, you should keep all of them. As of right now, it sounds like current exotic weapons will not be affected by the tiering system, so you should be okay on that front. For armor, exotic class items should absolutely be saved, as their stats will be retroactively be updated going into the Edge of Fate, granting you bonus stats depending on what perks your exotic class item has. For the rest of your exotic armor, it sounds like they'll be useful at the start of the expansion, but as you play, you'll want to grind for the exotic armor 3.0 versions of the exotic armor you currently use. You can directly focus these at 801 only during the Year of Prophecy, which lasts from July 2025 to presumably July 2026, so you'll have a decent amount of time to convert these over. So with all that being said, that brings us to the last part of prepping, which is putting together builds for the Edge of Fate. Thanks to the Edge of Fate content update earlier this week, we know what the artifact looks like already, and so because of that, we know what builds to put together. From the looks of it, the Edge of Fate will have a focus on solar, stasis, and strand builds, meaning that you'll want to put extra focus into these builds. I won't go too into detail with this section solely because I have another video coming regarding what builds to prepare for the expansion, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss that. But you're going to want to have a focus on solar, stasis, and strand builds heading into the new expansion. Well, that'll wrap up today's video. If you found it helpful, a like rating would be greatly appreciated, and consider subscribing to the channel for more Destiny 2 content dropping weekly. If you'd like to come catch me live, then you can do so over at twitch.tv/SniperKH_, where I'll be doing some build crafting and Edge of Fate prepping live on stream, so stop by to hang out or to ask any questions you might have. Otherwise, follow my other social media accounts linked below for more content and updates with me. With that being said, I'm SniperKH, and I'm out. Good luck with gaming.